Greetings, this is Artie from Artifact Electronics. So last time we worked on the B-side monitor on this Nintendo Red Tent. It was missing the blue color after the board had been sent to an outside repair place. And we fixed it. So if you haven't seen it, have a look at that one first. But when this monitor originally self-destructed, it did some damage to the game board. So last time we used a different game board that was a known good working board to test the blue stuff. And all of that got fixed, but this time what I did was I put the original game board back in. And let's see if this magically fixed itself. So now we're going to look at the A monitor, and well, at least that still works. Now looking on the other side at the B monitor, here's what we get. An unsynced mess. It is trying to show something. The game is running. I mean, the nature of these is that if a game doesn't run at all on either the A or B side, so if the B game wasn't running, then the A side wouldn't be running either. But the A side runs fine, but there's actually a big fat noise bar on the screen. Can you see it coming down? So we know that it's going to need new caps for the A side. But we also need to find out what exactly happened here on the B side. And that's obviously a game board problem because we ran Ice Climber on this monitor last time with a different board, and that worked great. So let's pull the board and make a plan. So here's the game board, got it on the bench, and little refresher, basically each side, I mean this block over here is an NES, a Nintendo Entertainment System, and this block on this side is also an NES Entertainment System. There's two of them. The difference being that they communicate with each other, and we have our CPUs up here. The PPUs, which are the picture processing units, or basically the video driver chips, are here. And then we got ROMs with the games on them. However, the PPUs serve a dual purpose. Not only do they display the information, but Nintendo also used them as a security device. These PPUs have to be matched to the ROMs you're playing. If they're not matched correctly, the game will still run in most cases, but the color palettes will be off completely, making the game unplayable. And the funny thing is, to this date, attempts have been made to reproduce these, but and there's a bunch of people working on reproductions, but I haven't seen a successful one yet. And the prices people are talking about are going to be not cheap if they succeed in doing this. So you're really living off whatever existing supply there exists. And other than that, really not much else to say, except we gotta formulate a plan on how to start repairing this. Now, I'm not showing you part of the board. I did that on purpose because I hadn't looked at this board very closely before. So feast your eyes on this. I hadn't seen it, but this is the upper part of the board, the left side. And obviously This looks like Krakatoa erupted over here. We got some seriously burnt components, a cracked transistor over here. And I guess what happened was whatever disaster befell the monitor board fed back. I mean, the video is coming out on some of these pins, and somehow the video outputs got fed with some high voltage. We can see that some of these components are obviously telling us that they're no longer functional. But I'm suspecting there may be other damage that is not visually detectable right now that may be causing all these problems. So I think the first thing we got to do is clean up a little bit over here to see the damage better, see if there's any other components. I mean, with all this mess, I can't really see what's going on here. And then take it from there. Let's try some IPA first. See how much of this it'll take off, and and probably both these capacitors are the ones that are causing the noise bars. There's not that many capacitors on here. I would probably just replace all of them. See how much closer we can get. So what we can clearly discern right off the bat is that these three resistors, this, and this, took quite a jolt. And this transistor has a big crack on the case. So this guy's gone too. But again, as I said, we really don't know what else got hit. So let's clean this up a little more, get the alcohol out of it, and see what's next. Now I'm curious to see if, even though some of these components look pretty bad, how bad is it? Do some of them still work? Are they gone? Actually, most of this dirt's coming off the toothbrush. All right. Let's see if we can get a little better view of this, and at least test the resistors. After doing the cleanup, you can actually read the component designators on the board. Even though if we couldn't, I have other boards that I could use as a reference, but we can actually read this, and we have R31 over here, which is supposed to be 1K. We have R30, and you can't read what that is, but I do have the schematics, and let's see, that's supposed to be 33 ohms, and then we have R28 over here, which is supposed to be 330 ohms. So for grins, let's put a meter on it and see what they say. This guy is cracked, which is Q8. Is that right? Q8. Yes. So let's see. if anything survived here. First, let's have a look at R31, which was supposed to be 1K. It's 1K on the nose. So that one survived, even though it is no longer very pretty. The next one down the line, which to me looks like it took the worst damage, was R30, and R30 is supposed to be 33 ohms. Well, it's still alive, but it's showing, what, 46 ohms. And then the third one is R28, and R28 is supposed to be 330 ohms, and that's this guy over here. And he lost a little bit value, but so two of the resistors are actually in range. The one in the middle pretty much got destroyed pretty good, and of course this transistor is cracked. So let's have a look at the schematics. Let's look at the schematics and see what those parts actually did. So here's what the schematics say. And here's the interesting part. This is the transistor and the two resistors that were burnt. And it tells us that it goes to the edge connector, and the signal is called S-sync. S stands for sub, which is the B side, and sync stands for, you guessed it, sync, composite sync. So this part's burnt, that's why we're not getting any sync. And that makes sense. Something backfed through this connector and took out a bunch of stuff here. And that may not be all. I mean, whatever else is in the path of this signal. I mean, here's another resistor, R24, that probably got zapped too. And, well, we'll just have to find out. The only other thing that was a bit worrisome is that R31 over here, I mean, it's physically close to these two, but it's in a completely different, it's in a different area and function, I mean, logically. And what it does is it feeds this output over here, and what this is, it's the coin counter. But the coin counter isn't even used, it isn't hooked up, so what I'm guessing is that this thing just kind of got heat blasted when these two resistors over here got hot. Not that it really matters because this is not being used. The good thing about it is I don't have exact transistor replacements for this, but these two transistors are the same, and since I'm not using the counter, I'll probably use that as a spare. But what we're going to do next is take out all the affected components. We know that this transistor is bad because it's cracked, and we'll see it up close in a little bit, but this one, since it wasn't being used, it wasn't connected to anything, so nothing could have backfed to this. So this transistor is probably still good, and I can use it to replace this one with. And then the resistors, and then we'll just kind of retest things. Okay, so here we go. I replaced the blown up transistor here and the barbecued resistors to the left of it, this guy, and this guy. Even though I measured them and, two of the resistors still seemed good, even though they looked horrible. But the one in the middle was kind of off value. And anyway, I replaced all those. I replaced the bypass caps, 3 of them, 2 of which you can see here, and was ready to test things. And you wouldn't believe it, it didn't work. I got different kind of garbage on the screen, different kind of unsynced garbage. So something had changed, but it still didn't work. So, like in the last episode, I gave up on the visual method and just replacing parts where they look bad. Plugged it in, followed all safety instructions again as outlined in the last episode, and hooked up a scope. And what the scope told me, looking back at this again, I mean, we replaced this, what was it, and this, I think. But when I looked at the schematic again, note, there is a TTL inverter here. 1/6 of a 74 LS04. So what I did was I started probing it from where the signal originates, which is here, which you can't see. The sync signal originates here for the B monitor, and I just followed it all the way through and measured the signal. And again, the signal was making it here through the cap into the base of the transistor. It came out of the collector of the transistor, but then the output of the gate was floating. It wasn't passing the signal. So even though the chip didn't show any misuse or cracks or anything or discoloration, obviously whatever fed back in here and took out all the other parts made it all the way into the inverter and took out this output. So that was the only thing left. I replaced it over here, and now over here, and now we can finally go and look at the results. Alright, the board's installed on the A side. That's where the board goes. Not much to see. I mean, that's the board we just dealt with. And as an aside, this cabinet is really super bio-non-degradable. It's nothing degradable. It's all steel. So people throwing these things out, they're still going to be around many, many, many years after we're all gone. So we might as well put them into our living space and enjoy them. But let's close the hood. And see. Let's have a look at the A side first. That has Mario Brothers in it. Super Mario Brothers. Let's see if we got rid of the noise bars. And we did. There are no noise bars in here. Screen looks really good. Now keep in mind this one hasn't been recapped, so it'll probably look a little more washed out than the one on the B side, which got all fixed up last time. But now let's see if the B side got fixed. And it did. We got RGB. The camera doesn't really show it that well, but it is a lot sharper than the A monitor. But again, no wonder. It's got all new caps. And on this one, the game looks like so here's Mario playing golf. It's back. No garbage, nice sync, all the colors are there. It is fixed. Alright, so the board's fixed. I'm back to where I was a few months ago with a working red tent with 2 monitors and 4 working CPU boards or game boards. And after waiting for a while and paying some money and putting some effort into it, it's back to where it was then. Actually, no, the second monitor looks a lot better now. But here's the villains. I measured the caps and they actually measured good, so I'm not exactly sure if replacing the caps got rid of that noise bar. I suspect this may have had something to do with it because this inverter is used by both the A side and the B side, and whatever got damaged in here, signals may have been bleeding through from one inverter to another. Doesn't really matter. The noise bar is gone and the problem's gone. Here's the transistor that blew up, and of course the 3 resistors you saw before, 2 of which still showed a proper value, but this is what it took to fix the board. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps you if you ever have to dig into a red tent. So please like, subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. And we'll see you next time.